Hi, everybody. Welcome to Progressive Short Takes. I'm your host, Joe Firestone. So, Jeff Merkley did it. He introduced a very good bill for the climate. And that's what I'm going to tell you about right now. I'm going to share the screen and specifically an article from Common Dreams written by Jessica Corbett, published October 21st. The headline is Jeff Merkley unveils pioneering bills to make financial institutions, quote, stop bankrolling climate catastrophe, unquote. So let's go through that. There's a picture of Jeff. Jeff is one of the really few progressive senators. He's really among the few unmistakably progressive senators. I think outside of Bernie Sanders, Ed Markey, I would say Jeff Merkley is just as progressive, as Ed Markey, and that he and Ed Markey are more progressive than Elizabeth Warren in certain key areas. I think there are very few other senators who approach him when it comes to being unfailingly progressive. He's a co-sponsor, of the Medicare for All bill, and he's sincere in his co-sponsorship. And he's very high on the Green New Deal. While he is in Bernie's shadow, he is a very reliable supporter of what Bernie Sanders wants to do. Anyway, he got applause on Wednesday for introducing a pioneering pair of bills that aim to, quote, protect the long-term health and well-being of the American people and their economy from the catastrophic effects of climate and chaos, unquote. And the bills are about stopping banks and international financial institutions from financing fossil fuels. And he says, Jeff Merkley says, quote, how we invest our money reflects our values today and will drive our future tomorrow. Quoting him again, fossil fuel investments play a key role in accelerating climate chaos, which continues to spiral further and further out of control and claim lives and livelihoods in the process, unquote. Quote again, it's time to prioritize the interests of the American people and the planet, and to prioritize these interests over the wishes of fossil fuel CEOs who want to hold our economy hostage. The Protecting America's Economy from the Carbon Bubble Act of 2020, quote, would help safeguard the economy by prohibiting financial companies from making new investments in fossil fuels, unquote, according to his office. The Sustainable International Financial Institutions Act of 2020, on the other hand, quote, would elevate that priority to the international stage by ensuring that the United States uses its voice and vote in international financial institutions to divest from fossil fuel investments, unquote. So what Jeff is trying to do with these acts is to stop the money pipeline between Wall Street and the fossil fuel industry. His law, if we could get it through, would ban the funding of fossil fuels. And in a new Senate, we might just be able to get it through. The legislation was enthusiastically endorsed by members of Stop the Money Pipeline, a coalition of over 130 advocacy organizations that launched in January to pressure asset managers, banks, and insurance companies to, quote, stop financing fossil fuels and deforestation, start respecting human rights and indigenous sovereignty. Skipping over a part, of the article. At 350.org tweeted, quote, when there's an out-of-control fire, the worst thing you can do is pour more gas on it. It's time for Congress to step up and stop our banks and government from fueling the climate crisis. Oh, that was a tweet. So Merkley's legislation is getting support from quite a few places, very favorable quotes. One comment, by Nikki Reich of the Center for International Environmental Law, said that, quote, ending financing for fossil fuels should be a no-brainer. As this year has made abundantly clear, fossil fuels are not just terrible for people on the planet, they're terrible investments too, she continued. And to quote again, Senator Merkley's bills would finally require financial institutions to do what they should have long since done on their own, stop bankrolling climate a catastrophe. And financial institutions, of course, also came in for a lot of condemnation for their continued activities in driving the destruction of the climate, deforestation, and furthering harms to public health and communities by pouring billions into the dying fossil fuel industry, in the words of Osprey Oriel Blake, director of the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network. Lake urged Congress to urgently enact the measure, a call that was echoed by Lucas Ross from Friends of the Earth, U.S., who warned that, quote, whether it is Wall Street, the behemoths, or public institutions like the Import Bank, financial institutions are lending the climate over a cliff. I think that should have been, lending the climate over a cliff. That's quote. And that's cute. And a quote from Daphne Weisham at the Center for Sustainable Economy, quote, public and private banks are squandering over $4 trillion annually, subsidizing the destabilization of our global climate via the fossil fuel industry. That was a quote from Daphne Weisham at the Center for Sustainable Economy. Quote, finally, in Senator Merkley, we have a climate champion willing to stand up to this madness and call for banks to invest in a livable future. $35 global banks have collectively poured more than $2.7 trillion into the fossil fuel industry since the Paris Climate Agreement was finalized in late 2015. The 4 top spots were all held by U.S. banks: J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, Citi, and Bank of America. $350 co-founder Bill McKibben pointed out there could be some added benefits for lawmakers, simply apart from helping to ensure a habitable planet, in the years to come. As he put it, quote, fighting the climate crisis and saving big money at the same time. Just a few more laws like this, and people may start liking Congress, unquote. They may. But we need a lot more laws like this, not just a few. A lot more laws like this, I'm afraid. Congress has done such a terrible job that we have to see to it they get better, and that they get better very, very quickly. So that's it. That was a development that was good. Okay, it's good news for us. It's not going to pass now, obviously, but I think if the Democrats take control of both the House and the Senate, certainly Bernie Sanders and Jeff Merkley, and Ed Markey, and probably Elizabeth Warren, and probably a number of other senators will be pushing that particular bill. And maybe we'll get it passed, or something very like it passed. So that's it for this progressive short take. I'll be back for more this week, but I'm going to end this one now. Thank you for coming, and please occasionally go to my Patreon account up on the screen, right now, and I'd very much appreciate it if you would make a contribution. Thank you, and good night.